what really got me my first job in Canada. Hi, good day, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelly Travels, and on this channel we talk about ways in which you can slap self-sabotage, claim the life that you deserve, and settle successfully in Canada as a newly landed permanent or temporary resident. I am an immigration settlement strategist, and I help my clients overcome the anxiety and uncertainty of their journey as a newly landed immigrant in Canada. I did a poll over on my Instagram. If you haven't already, go follow me on Instagram, and I asked persons what kind of content would you all like next. An overwhelming response said that persons wanted to know, how do you find your first job in Canada? So let's get started. So I'm gonna give you 3 tips on how you can find your first job in Canada, and then if you wait all the way to the end of it, I'm gonna give you a bonus 4th tip, and that is the way that I used to find my first job in Canada when I first landed. In this video, I'm also gonna be including a review from an HR recruiter who was one of my past clients who now has her dream job in her field, and I'm actually gonna let you all hear what she has to say about finding your first job in Canada. Number 1 may be a bit controversial, but we're just gonna go right in because I don't wanna give you all any fluff. I wanna give you all the reality of how it really is, the real information that will help you to find that first job. My first tip is you need to lower those expectations. So if you're coming into Canada as a permanent resident, especially through express entry, I know one thing for sure: you have really valuable work experience, and you're educated, you speak English or French well, and you're young, right? Because those are like typically the 4 criteria that is used to score persons for express entry. However, you may be coming from like a management position and you're landed in Canada, and you, in your mind, you may expect to get that same level of position as your first job, right? But there's something called a survival job. A survival job is a very crucial part of your settlement process. First of all, it keeps you afloat financially so that you don't have to dig into your savings, if you have a lot of savings, that is. Secondly, it gives you something that is really important, which is called Canadian experience, right? So this survival job may not be in your field. It may not be anything that you particularly want to do. It may not be a dream job. It may be like in a department store, doing something with retail, in a hardware, something like that. But what that really provides you with is Canadian experience to put on your resume, because a lot of employers love seeing Canadian experience. So this survival job is what is actually going to open up the doors for you for future jobs, so that your resume can be actually seen by the person making the decision instead of being filtered out because you have no Canadian experience. Now, I know, pride. You have your master's degree, maybe even your PhD, and it's really hard to go from a management position to now working at Walmart. I know, but you need to understand one thing if you want to settle successfully. All right, you listening? One thing. No one cares. No one cares. No one cares. No one is going to judge you based on the job that you take when you first land in Canada, except maybe yourself, right? So get over it. Do what you need to do to survive. It's called a survival job for a reason. Get that survival job quickly so that you're able to actually get an entry-level position in your field even quicker, right? Best advice. Lower those expectations. Do what you need to do to survive. My second tip is to have a plan and craft your resume accordingly, right? So do you have a plan, a career plan, a career projection? What sites are you going to be looking at? I personally like Indeed and LinkedIn. There are many others. Do your research. But more importantly, how many submissions are you going to be making per day? Right? And with that, you also need to have a well-crafted resume that is in the Canadian style, right? So this is really important because a lot of the information that you may be used to having on a resume will not be relevant here, and it might be a huge turn-off to employers. So just some off the top of my head, no pictures. You don't put your address on there. You may just put your city and your province, and you don't put things like your age and those kind of stuff either, right? So like really honing in and crafting that resume in the Canadian style, as well as having a projection and a plan for how you're going to apply to jobs is going to be important. This is going to help you to stand out because your resume is the portal to the job, right? It's gonna help you to stand out, and it's gonna help you to be consistent until you get that survival job as well. If you are interested in setting up a settlement strategy call with me, use the link down in my description and let's get talking. This is particularly going to be useful for persons who are in the process of planning to land in Canada as a temporary or permanent resident. So my third tip is something that is really underrated, but that is the power of referrals and networking. So Canadian employers actually rely on referrals a lot more than you may even notice. So having that network of persons or just knowing the right person can land you a job so much quicker than applying through the regular portals. So some good ways that you can build that network or build on your networking skills would be to really optimize your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is a really good resource for connecting with other persons in your field. And once you have that LinkedIn profile optimized, I would actually recommend that you do something called coffee chats. So coffee chats is a really unique way to meet potential employers or potential persons who can refer you to an employer, right? So on a coffee chat, you basically reach out to someone in your field and you invite them to go to coffee with you. I know it sounds strange. In my home country, we don't do this, but here it is actually really prominent, and you'll be surprised. People actually say, well, yeah, I'll meet you for coffee. You pay for the coffee, and then in return, if they really like you, if you're connected well, if you presented yourself well, they may be a huge resource in the future, potentially even referring you to their employer or they themselves offering you a job. It's really amazing. So this is a semi-professional kind of occasion. You're gonna be yourself, probably wear jeans and a nice shirt, or if it's a job that is really professional, dress the part, right? If it's during working hours, consider dressing like if you're going to work. So scope out place in which you want to work, go on their lunch break and see how people dress. You may be amazed that what you consider to be professional or suit and tie, actually persons work there in jeans or t-shirts, right? So scope them out, see how they dress. And if you're inviting someone on a coffee chat during lunch break, it'll be really impressive to dress the part. That's tip number one. Tip number two, walk with a resume. At the end of the coffee chat, the person may request a resume from you. You don't want to be unprepared, walk with a resume. Tip number three, follow up after the coffee chat, right? Follow up just to make sure that they remember you, wish them the best in their professional career. Tip number four would be have things to talk about. Interview prep is really important. So practice answering questions that are common, because this coffee chat is like a very casual version of an interview. They're interviewing you to see if you're worthwhile to refer to the employer or worthwhile to offer a job to. So it's a huge resource, but just make sure I'm prepared, and also make sure to have that LinkedIn profile optimized before inviting persons on that coffee chat. So now welcome to the bonus. Now I'm going to tell you how I was actually able to land my first job in Canada. So let me give you all some background information. So y'all know, for those of you who don't know, let me tell you. I landed in Calgary 2.5 years ago, not even 2.5 years, 2 years and some months ago. And in my home country, I actually was a polygraph examiner for a long period of time. I had a career in polygraph examinations, which for those of you who don't know, it's a lie detector test, right? So I did this. I have a master's degree in environmental science and management as well. And I did a lot of coaching there as well, business coaching. I had businesses set up in Trinidad and Tobago. So I would say that I had a successful career. So landing in Calgary, I quickly realized, okay, it ain't about to happen. I'm not just gonna stroll right in to my dream job. So you need to be strategic. What I did, and what will be a really good idea for you to do as well, I did the LinkedIn, I did the coffee chats, I did the Indeed, I optimized my resume, I did all of the things that I told you all before. But this is what really got me my first job in Canada. Are you ready? Tip number 4, print out a bunch of CVs. Go to your nearest mall and give those suckers out. I physically went in with my physical resume and gave them out to stores in the mall that was closest to the place where I was renting. And that is what gave me, or got me, my first job in Canada. So my first job was actually working in a department store selling like household items. And I actually went into the store and I spoke to some of the clerks or some of the associates that were working before. I asked them what type of place it was, how it was to work there, what was the experience. I started just building up conversations with them, and then one of them was like, you could go right down into the basement, and that's where our admin people are, and you can give them your resume. So I went downstairs, I built up a conversation as well with the clerks that were downstairs, and I gave them my resume, and within the next week I was working there, right? And it's really amazing. My number one tip for doing this is remember that when you're interacting with the clerk or the associate, they are the gatekeeper of that job. You need to be really polite to these people because they can make or break your application. Your application may not even get to the person making the decision if you're rude, right? Or even if it does get there, they're going to go out of their way to make sure and let the employer know not to hire you, right? So you need to really be careful, be polite, and just understand that this is a mini interview for this position. So 2 weeks after landing that position, I started I still was applying, right? I wanted to get into a job in quality because prior to my career in polygraph, I worked in quality back in my home country. So within 2 weeks of landing that position, I actually got another job offer to start working in my career in quality. So that is the power of Canadian work experience. And that is a whole other topic for another video. I don't want to make this video too long, but it's really interesting because I interviewed for that exact same position before getting my survival job, and they told me no. They told me no. And then 2 weeks after getting my survival job, I resubmitted my resume because they really were impressed with me, and then I got the job. So that was actually the power of having Canadian work experience. That's another topic. If y'all want to hear more about that whole confusing ordeal there, let me know down in the comments. But that was really when it clicked to me. This is what needs to be done when you first land. I actually have a bonus for you guys. I'm going to let you hear a review from one of my past clients who is now a HR recruiter. So this is really going to be valuable for you all. And remember, the journey is the prize. Have an amazing day and listen out for that.
My name is Dion, and I arrived in Canada with my husband, my daughter, and my mother. I contacted Khalees through a friend of mine. I had never been to Alberta before, so landing in an unfamiliar place was a scary prospect. I am thankful I had Khalees. She picked my family and I up from the airport, drove us to our Airbnb, took us to get groceries and other things we needed for our first night in Canada. The next day, she arrived at our Airbnb and took us to Service Canada to get our SIN numbers. She also took us to get our Alberta ID cards. She came with us to get our bank account set up. Now, this may all sound very simple, but remember, I had zero knowledge of Alberta. Just having someone who was familiar with the process and where to go to get what we needed was amazing. All that anxiety I felt on the plane just disappeared after I met Khalees. Khalees didn't just only help me my few days of arrival, she continued to be a source of advice and support. She was a person who told me to restructure my resume and to get a survival job because most employers in Canada want to see you have some work experience here, even if it's not in your field or career. So I took a job in retail, and now I currently work in HR doing recruiting, and I can tell you that Khalees' advice is accurate. Most employers won't reach out unless you have some level of Canadian work experience. So for anyone new to Canada, I would highly recommend working with Khalees. There are a lot of things that you don't know you need until you get here. Having Khalees support you through your journey will reduce your anxiety and stress levels. Trust me, it's worth it.